Whoopee! We got some football today. Some spring games on. Gump's playing now. I've been watching some of it, I'm not going to lie. I mean, hell, I'm a football fan. I ain't seen any college football in a while. I know FCS is going on. I tried to get into it week one, couldn't do it. So anyway, to me, this is my football fix for the spring until at least fall camp opens up here, or summer camp here in a couple of months. So yes, I've been watching some of the Alabama game. I watched some of the games last weekend. But my Georgia Bulldogs come on it too today. When it comes to Stetson Bennett, Kirby Smart, just say no, sir. I know Stetson's going to play today, and I don't have a problem with that. And I'm going to try to stay calm and rational when he does play. Clearly, JT Daniels is a starter. Lou, what do you want to see from the spring game? I've been asked that 100 times in the last 2 weeks. No injuries. That's number one. That's my number one every single spring. Now, unfortunately, Georgia's already been bitten by the injury bug several times this spring, of course, with George Pickens being the big one. But he's done for the year, most likely. But so no injuries today, and that goes for every team, not just Georgia. But what am I looking for from Georgia? No injuries. Yeah, I want to see JT Daniels play well, and I'm sure he will for a variety of reasons. Almost our entire offense from last year is back. Yes, George Pickens is gone, but Georgia's not hurting for talent at the wide receiver position. I hate that we lost George Pickens, and he is a difference maker. We're going to miss him. Kyrus Jackson, Jermaine Burton, Dominic Blaylock, the list goes on. Darnell Washington at tight end. We've got wide receivers. So I'm sure JT Daniels is going to sling the ball around today because we got all those guys coming back from last year. And let's be real, the one concern or question mark about Georgia, particularly on defense, is the secondary. Very young and inexperienced secondary for Georgia in 2021. See a lot of new faces out there today. Well, maybe not new if you're a diehard fan. These kids have been on campus for a couple of years, but you're going to see a lot of guys playing in the secondary that maybe you've never seen play before, right? Keely Ringo, list goes on and on. Thank God we got that transfer in from West Virginia. I really think that's a big deal. I do. Is he going to be an All-American or win the Thorpe Award? No, but listen, we lost our top three corners from last year's team. He provides some much-needed experience. And you say whatever you want about West Virginia in the Big 12, throw the ball around like no other. West Virginia had one of the best pass defenses in America last year. Google it, Jack, if you don't believe me. Or if you had your head in the sand. We got their DB coach, too, West Virginia. So, yeah, it's a big deal. Well, it won't matter for today, though. Anyway, back to today. So, I am curious to see how these DBs look, but I'm totally prepared and totally expecting, honestly, Georgia's offense to light Georgia's defense up today. When you're talking about the ones versus ones. Georgia's offense should be miles ahead of Georgia's defense right now. And I expect to see that. So I'm not going to get bent out of shape or upset or too concerned if Georgia's defense doesn't look great today, especially the secondary. Plus, you got to remember, spring games favor offenses because of the rules. You can't touch the quarterback, can't sack the quarterback. You barely can even look at the quarterback. So anyway, what I'm really curious in seeing today, though, I want to see Carson Beck versus Brock Vandergrift. That's what I want to see. Why? Because one of those two guys better be QB2 for UGA this year, not Stetson Bennett. There is not one logical or rational reason or explanation for Stetson Bennett to ever take another snap in a Georgia game ever again. Thank you for your service, sir. You stepped in when Kirby Smart didn't know what he was doing. It was what it was, and it is what it is, but it ain't never going to be that again. So, thank you. There's no benefit in playing Stetson Bennett. Now, today, yes, he'll play today. I'm not talking about today. I want to know who's better between Carson Beck and Brock Vandergrift, because one of those two guys needs to be QB2 this year. JT Daniels has gone to the NFL after this year. I want to know who's better, Carson Beck versus Brock Vandergrift. And unfortunately, I can't take Kirby's word for it, because he doesn't, forget it. Anyway, so I want to see them play. And in the second half of games this year, when Georgia's up by 20 or 30 points or whatever, I want one of those two guys to be in the game throwing the ball. And so that's what I'm looking for today. Who looks better today? Carson Beck, who, of course, this is his second year there. So he's got that advantage over Brock Vandergrift, who just showed up on campus in January as an early enrollee, true freshman. Most people think Brock Vandergrift is better, though, myself included. Now, I will be happy to be proved wrong if Carson Beck comes out and looks amazing. That'll be the first one to come on here and say it. But I did make a prediction when we signed Carson Beck that he'd never start a game at Georgia and would most likely end up transferring after his second or third year. I still sort of feel that way. He's stuck in the middle right now behind JT Daniels. And Brock Vandergrift comes in. And then, of course, you got Gunnar Stockton coming in next year. So I kind of feel like Carson Beck's the odd man out. But I want to see how they look today. Brock Vandergrift, Carson Beck. How do they look? Because like I said, when the season comes around, I don't want to see none of this running some quarterback out there and making him hand the ball off 40 times in the third and fourth quarter because we're up by 30 or 40 points. No. In 2022, Georgia's going to be playing a quarterback who's never started before. It's either going to be Carson Beck, Brock Vandergrift, or Gunnar Stockton. We can't see Gunnar Stockton in a Georgia uniform this year. He's still in high school, but we can see Carson Beck and we can see Brock Vandergrift in actual games this year, and I expect to see it. Throwing the ball. And that all starts today, watching those two slinging around. So, yeah, I'll be watching the game. It comes on here in a little bit. I'm doing a stream, but it's on the Patreon page. In the off-season, I do one stream a month over on the Patreon page, and it's always hard to find something to stream during the off-season, so I am streaming the Georgia game, but that's on the Patreon page. So if you're a member over there on the Patreon page, check there'll be a link posted on the Patreon page right around 2 o'clock when the game starts. Just go to the Patreon page, click the link. It'll take you to my live stream. If you're not on the Patreon page, you can click the link down below that says Patreon page. It'll take you over there and you can look around. Patreon page is a great way to support the channel if you want to. No one is required to. You do get some extra stuff for being signed up over there or whatever the case. And like I said, it's a great way to support the channel, and I appreciate all of you who have done that, but it's definitely not a requirement. Anyway, I hope some gump just scored a touchdown. Won't happen often this year, though.